before the end of 2019, beginning of 2019, I had gotten over 4 offers. I think I have gotten offer from Imperial College, from University of Aberdeen, from all over Manchester, Liverpool. I've gotten all these admissions. Like it was more like, okay, a step in the direction I want to go to. The next thing was I needed funding, because with the UK schools, especially for geosciences, it's really kind of expensive. I knew that this was not something I could handle. I started looking out for scholarships, and that was another journey on its own. I applied to several scholarships, and at the end of the presentation, I will share with you some of those scholarships that you could look out for and possible time frames when those scholarships are open. I'll just walk you through some guidelines you need to know when applying. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Promise AK, and on this channel we talk about data sciences, machine learning, artificial intelligence, or anything technology. If you're passionate about these things I've mentioned, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you're alerted whenever I post any new video. In this video today, I will be sharing my journey to securing admissions to over 4 top UK universities and obtaining the SPDC Niger Delta Postgraduate Scholarship at Imperial College London, the prestigious Imperial College London. If you're considering studying in the UK, you won't want to miss out on any of the juicy details I'm about to spill in this video. So make sure you watch till the end of the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Don't be stingy. Share with people you think would benefit from this content. And if you have any question, make sure you put that in the comment section, and I will be there to answer your questions. So my name is Promise AK, and I would be giving you just talking about my journey generally to getting I finished my master's from Imperial College London. I'll just be sharing that journey with you, and I hope with the story I'll share, you're able to pick a few things from whatever I talked about, because most times the journey is not as smooth as you think it should be. You have bumps here and there. It's your ability to withstand those bumps and still keep pushing despite whatever life throws at you, basically. So I've talked about my journey. I finished my BS from Federal University of Petroleum Resources around 2015, towards the end of 2015 to 2016. In 2016, I went for my youth service and I served in Lagos. And as some of you people with, I think, after NYC, the next thing is either you get a job or you want to go for your master's, basically. So that was same my case. I found for the longest of time I wanted to go to Imperial College. So towards the end of my service, I applied to Imperial College London. That was 2016/2017, and I had high hopes because I applied. I even went for an interview with Imperial College at the time, and I got the shock of my life at the end. After the application, I just received one of those, oh, we're sorry, we can't. And it was really painful for me at that time, because it was more like a downturn, like you see from my graph I'm showing. It was more like a downturn from where I was coming from, because, okay, I already planned out, okay, this is what I was going to do. So when I saw that I didn't get Imperial College, I began to doubt myself, basically. So what happened? Because normally Imperial College don't conduct interviews for their prospective students, but I had the interview and I was hopeful. Like, I had good conversations with the interviewers at that time, but I got the mail, so I started digging into, okay, so why was I rejected? So I discovered that at Imperial College at the time, they only take first class students, and I didn't graduate with first class at the time. I had a 2-1, and so, okay, they only take 2-1 with work experience. So at that point, I started asking myself, okay, I didn't get Imperial, I want to go to Imperial, what do I need? So I started looking for work experience, and that journey was not so smooth. So ends the turn. Then luckily, sometime in 2018, I was able to secure a position, a geoscience position with Connect. With that knowledge, since now I have at least I have my 2-1 and I'm beginning to gain work experience, I could apply again to Imperial College. And the first mistake I made when I applied the first time was because I wanted Imperial. I only applied to Imperial. And when I didn't get Imperial, that was the end of it for me. Like, okay, there was no option. So when I was going to apply again in 2018, towards the end of 2018, I kind of cast my net wide. So I didn't only apply to Imperial. I searched for, because I knew I wanted to go to the UK, so I was very particular about going to the UK. So I researched all the schools, and I was doing geoscience at the time, and I wanted to further with geosciences basically. So I started, okay, what are the schools, all the top schools offering geosciences for masters? There was Imperial College, there was Aberdeen, there was Royal Holloway. This time I applied to all the schools, in all the top schools in the UK that offered geosciences, and that was it for me. Before the end of 2019, beginning of 2019, I had gotten over 4 offers. I think I have gotten offer from Imperial College, from University of Aberdeen, from Royal Holloway. So there are a lot of schools in Manchester, Liverpool. I've gotten all these admissions. Like, it was more like, okay, a step in the direction I want to go to. The next thing was I needed funding, because with the UK schools, especially for geosciences, it's really kind of expensive. I knew that this was not something I could handle by myself, or my parents could sponsor for me. So I started looking out for scholarships, and that was another journey on its own. I applied to several scholarships and it wasn't fruitful. I think the one that was the most funny one was PTDF. I applied for PTDF in 2019, and I applied for the international scholarship. PTDF, you have the international and the local scholarships. I applied for the international scholarship and I was shortlisted for the local scholarship. That was a bit funny because, okay, at that time I did not want to apply to any local school. So that was more like a discouraging moment for me. At that I applied to Commonwealth. At the end of the presentation, I will share with you some of those scholarships that you could look out for and possible time frames when those scholarships are open. So I applied for AGIP, I didn't get through. So I applied for a couple of scholarships, and at the point it was already getting discouraging for me. Yeah, so I was like, okay, yes, I have all this admission, but if there are no funding, and one thing about UK schools, you get what we call conditional admission. So most of the time they give you, when you submit your papers and your documents, they give you admission, but that admission is most times conditional, based when you're able to meet certain conditions before they can give you that unconditional offer. Yeah, so most of the schools I had the conditional admission, but the only conditions in most cases were the deposit fund for like your like I think 10% or thereabout. So there was no funding, so I was looking out for that. Then the last card at that point was like I had a list of scholarships I was going to apply for. Most like I'd exhausted almost all my cards. So the last card for me at the time was SPDC scholarship, and that was like, okay, I was going to give it all my all. And luckily for me, at the end of the day, I applied for that. And with SPDC scholarship, you don't apply directly to SPDC. They have partnerships with different schools. I think Imperial College, Aberdeen, and I think University of Leeds. So when you get admission with any of those schools, then they will shortlist you. So you submit your application for the scholarship to the schools. The schools go through the applications and shortlist student candidates for the interview. So I was shortlisted at the time I told you I had admission with Aberdeen and admission with Imperial. And luckily for me, both schools kind of shortlisted me for the scholarships and sent my name to SPDC. We had to go for the interview, and I was able to cut the long story short. I got the scholarship, and at least in 2020, I went for my master's at Imperial College London. So this is like my journey from me finishing BSc to going to study at Imperial. If you've paid attention to for what the story I've told you, see certain things that kind of made me like some at different points. I had short-term goals. I had goals, and I was working towards every step of the goal, every step of that goal. Work as I walked through the ladder, basically. Yeah, and that's it. So That being said, I'll just walk you through some guidelines you need to know when applying. So where you want to apply, what are the things you need to do? First of all, I'll say you have to be clear, have clear goals, have clear objectives. What's your interest? What course I'm going for master? It's not just about going to study. What do you want to do? What course do you want to study? That should be right first thing. Do your research. Then the next thing is you have to start your research. You have to research which school do I want to go. First of all, which country do I want to study? What school do I want to go? Like for me, I had to do research for all the schools that were taking geosciences at that time. So I did the research, and the different schools, they have the different requirements you need for the course you're going to study. So you should know that, you know, the documents you need to study, the documents you need to provide. So your research is very important. Research is like key when it comes to graduate school application. So after doing your research and you've settled for the school you want to study, and also you start your application, before you even start the application, you need to get your documents ready. And I'll just highlight some of the documents you need when applying for your graduate school. First of all, you want to get your CV ready. So most schools, when you submit your application, you might be required to submit your CV. So those are some of the things you research. What's the requirement for this school and what's the requirement for this course? Because different courses have different requirements. Then you also talk about personal statements of purpose. This is very key because this is one of the things the school will look at alongside your qualification for them to kind of give you the admission or not. And when we talk about personal statement, I'll just give you some tips to have a very standard, very good and outstanding personal statement. First of all, you have to be authentic, be genuine, be true to yourself. I've seen a lot of people just copy personal statement. I think I'm guilty of this. Initially, just get somebody's personal statement, change one or two things, do this, do that. I think in itself, plagiarism is real here in the UK. So if you already being flagged as being accused of plagiarism, you don't want to kind of be in that position. So you have to be authentic, write your own story, tell your story. Because you have obviously you have different story. So be authentic in that sense. Write compelling story. Let your personal statement tell your story. Give just something that would want to draw the reader. It shouldn't be boring. You have to be kind of hit the right points you want to hit, and you should have also clear structure. Don't just be over the place. You can go online and research for different personal statements and see how it's being told, like the beginning, what you want to do. Just have good clear structure and organization. Also, your personal statement should reflect your personal, what I'm going to do. Okay, what have I done? So if I'm applying for this course, this is what I've done. So your journey should also reflect the course you're studying or what you want to go study. So you should be able to say, okay, this person is just coming to study. You already have a journey and you're working towards that journey. So your cover letter or your personal statement should reflect that personal growth and also what you want to do. Also bring unique perspective to contribution. If you could talk about, okay, what's trending, maybe for example you're applying as a geoscientist, you talk about common recent trends in geoscience space, or maybe for example you're going to the UK or the US, what's the UK doing in regards to geosciences, what's your country doing, how are you coming to impact, or how would that study help you in whatever you're going in your journey basically. So you should be able to tell them your goal and how the course you're going for kind of tying with your goal. So be research and be specific. So for example, that's why most of the time you don't use the same personal statement for different schools. So research about that person, that school itself. What are they doing? You could even research into personal professors or lecturers in the university, those with maybe specific research topics. You also just so that they know that you're putting effort into this thing. You're not just coming to apply. Okay, I know that this school is coming, because what they are doing is not only admitting, definitely they need students, but they want to get students that fit into their goals, basically to fit into what they are doing. So you should be able to, and they want you also to see that you're well prepared for what you want to do. So do your research, be specific about what you want and how your skills would help, or how you course you're going to be studying would affect the school and also affect you. Yeah, so you also have to pay attention to details. It's about writing, so you have to be clear. No, there's no room for making grammatical error or spelling errors. So you have to kind of tick that box, make sure it's well arranged, your alignment is, so it's just more like when when someone sees it, it's appealing, not you. It's maybe you have justified one paragraph, the next paragraph is centralized, so it could have this clear structure, and you have good writing skills, so you have professional tone, and also send your feedback to people. So after writing your cover letter or personal statement in this case, don't just submit. It's good to maybe pass it around people. Like me, I had like 3-4 people I gave my personal statement to that when I was applying. So I have someone that would look at it from a technical point of view. So I give it to a geoscientist to help me review. After giving a geoscientist, I give it to someone that is more English language focused. So somebody's helping me look at the technical aspect of the personal statements. Someone else is also helping me look at the grammar aspect of that personal statement. So it's very key. Send feedback to people for them to revise. Then the next document we'll talk about is supporting documents. So when you apply, there are what we call supporting documents, and this could be your transcripts, also evidence of your previous qualifications. So if you have a master's, if you have a BSc, HND, OND, you should be able to submit evidence for this qualification. Also, you need references. Most times schools require references, and in the UK, some of them you could submit it, like you could request a reference from your referee, and you upload it on the website, or sometimes they'll ask you to give the contact details for the reference for your referees, and they would write to the referees for them to submit it. So either we just know how it's been done for the school you want to apply for. Another very key document you need is proof of English language proficiencies. So you have, this is where research comes in. In most cases they'll tell you write IELTS. In some schools you don't need to write this. You can get a document from your school stating that you were taught in English language. If you're able to submit that for that school, like for University of Aberdeen, they will waive that English language proficiency for you. In other cases, like for Imperial, I used my WIEC result. So because WIEC is kind of globally recognized, and if you have over C6 in WIEC English language, that can be waived for you. So that's where your research comes in, because I have seen people just jump, I need to go to the UK, let me go and write the next IELTS. You may not really need it. That's the truth. So that's why your research is very key. What's the requirement for the school? So now if I tell people that I've never written IELTS, they wouldn't believe, because I understood what I was going to do. I understood what I needed, and that was not part of what I needed. I didn't. Some schools, they are very keen. You have to write IELTS. Not all schools you get. So that should be that. You need your international passport. International passport is very key when applying. It's even complex, because at some point you ask for your passport number. Then something I should also I talked about conditional and unconditional admission, so you know how to balance it. So most of the time when you finish your application, within 2 weeks, a space of 2 weeks, you get feedback, and sometimes that feedback would be a conditional admission. So there are different conditions depending on the documents you submitted. Some documents would be, some schools will be, you need transcripts. Like for Imperial College, when I applied for Imperial College, I submitted a transcript, an electronic transcript, but that wasn't enough. They wanted one from the school. It's for the school you finished from. So like FUPRI, I had to write to FUPRI to send my transcript to Imperial College, and I had like 3. Some schools you need English language proficiency tests. That could be a condition, and also your 10% deposit for funding. So those were conditional, the conditions I had to meet before I was given the unconditional admission. So you have to be clear so that you are able to, and most of these things you have deadlines before the course start date. So you have to try to meet all these conditions so that you attain the unconditional status. Yes, so when you get your required documents, you want to start application. So you start your applications, like I said, apply to multiple schools. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Kind of spread your nets. And yeah, it's good that you have more admissions than you don't have enough admission. Then the next thing you need after looking, yes, I've applied, I have my documents, I've done my application. You need funding, and there are different ways to go about funding. So it depends on what you want. You have to answer these questions yourself. Do you have the funds to cater for your schooling, and or do you want to go for scholarship? Yeah. And when you go for scholarship, do you want full scholarship or you want part scholarship? Because there are some things that offer other full or part scholarship. Then that is where your research is also important. Research on the schools. Some schools you have certain scholarship or certain funding provisions for these different schools, so you have to do your research. Could be maybe female women in tech, so there's different scholarship options available on school websites, so you need to go check for those. And sometimes they can be full, and sometimes they can be part scholarship. So I also talk about scholarships in general. Some scholarships you should look out for if you're going to the UK. So you have to talk about Commonwealth Scholarship and Chevening. So these are more competitive scholarships. So if you're going to go on this, you should be prepared for it, because you're going to write a lot of personal statements. I think for Chevening, you have about 4 different essays you need to write. So you need to be prepared for that. Commonwealth also, you need to. So there are more competitive scholarships. We also have PTDF. PTDF is more Nigerian based. So these other ones are basically based in Nigeria. Yeah, for PTDF, they have allocations for different states. So you have to. I think they have the window. I think sometime within is it September now, October and December? That's for PTDF scholarship. You need to apply, and they have different things to look at to give you scholarships. And there's also the AGIP. I think AGIP is currently on, and I think it's going to be closing in I think by 29th. So if you want to go through that route, you should go apply for that. So there is the AGIP, there is the NDTC. So for NDTC, it's mainly for people within the Niger Delta region. So for PTDF, it's not kind of limited to any region at all. You could easily apply for that. Then we have Shell, like I also mentioned, I went on the Shell scholarship, SPDC scholarship. They have partnership with certain schools, and you don't just apply to Shell, you apply to the school. So you must have gotten admissions to the different schools, or any school they have partnership with for that year. So then the school will shortlist you for the scholarship. So being aware, be intentional about what you want. So since I knew that, okay, there was a Shell scholarship and I wanted to go on that scholarship, so I knew that they had partnership with Imperial, Aberdeen and Leeds. I applied to these different schools because I was intentional about that. Also, there's also the NLNG scholarships. So you could just go after this call, Google all the scholarships to know when their deadline. I think Shell should be on between now. So most times it comes up around April, May, June. So these are some of the scholarships you should if you're looking to go to the UK and you want to go through the scholarship option, you need to go start researching the schools and these scholarships, and just be ready, because most of these scholarships you need to have admission. So that's when getting admission is very key. So it's better you get your admission ready, then while you're waiting for scholarship and scholarships that would come up. And something you should also note is you can defer admission. For example, you get an admission this year, it's better to secure admission. Yeah, you secure admission and you don't have the funds or scholarship to pursue that admission, you can defer to the following year. So most of the schools, you have about 3-4 years of, you can defer for 3 times. So that's why I just get the admission first, and it should be I'm waiting for funding or I'm waiting for scholarships. So then you can defer to when you're ready to go. So the eligibility for these different scholarship vary. So you need to do proper research. I'll just leave you with these final words. First of all, you need to be persistent. Persistence is very key when it comes to application, because you're going to get lots of sad to say, but it does not always go well. But you have to be persistent. You have to still go for it even when you're not getting it. You could get a lot of rejections at some point, but that should not kind of deter you from pursuing your goal or your dreams. You have to be determined. You have to be determined. You have to be intentional about what you want. Yeah. And you also have to be committed. Like, commitment is key because it takes a lot sitting down to craft out personal statements, your CV, going through the application. But you have to be committed to whatever you want to do. Then commitment is very key. Community, sorry, is key because it's good to be around like-minded people. You share ideas. You kind of, if you need to start, for example, if you need to write IELTS, GRE, have that community of people that are pursuing the same goal with you, because it's easier to go on that journey when you're going with people rather than going alone. So you're able to share information, share just community. That community is very key. Get community of people interested in what you're interested in applying, and that would help you. Then prayers, whether you like it or not. Prayer, if you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, it always helps. Then, and lastly, don't give up. Basically, as long as you keep at whatever you're going to do, whatever you want to do, or whatever you're interested in doing, just keep at it. Even if it's not manifested yet, just keep going, and one day it's going to get there. Like for me, when after I applied to all the schools before SPDC came, at some point I told myself, "Promise, this is the last time you're going to do this." Like, because it's a very taxing process applying graduate application. I'm not going to tell you that it's easy. It's really tasking, but you have to keep going, keep pushing, even if it's with your last strength. If that's what some people, you don't have to, I'm not saying you have to go for masters for you to, you don't have to if you don't want to, but if you want to do that, you have to keep going. Yeah, it can take years, but if this is something you want to do, just keep pushing, and one day you're going to have that breakthrough. Yeah, and these are just some useful links that you could get information about scholarships. So I can just post some of these links on the chat, then you can easily go and check it out. At least there are some really good opportunities for funding in the UK. Some schools have different schools, they have their own in different scholarships. So I've just sent this link and you just browse through, do your research, and that's it for me. Thank you so much for listening.